Welcome back to True Remembrance. It's seeming pretty interesting so far, although you'll have to pardon me if I have to take breaks every now and then to drink some water, as there aren't really any natural breaks to do so. So, La was gazing about at the storefronts and houses. What was it that she saw? All I could see was an awkward clot of brick and ice, and ruin congealing out of slushy asphalt. Now as I continued to walk along, she stopped to look at something, then stopped to stare at something else entirely, and started again, and so on. Naturally, quite a gap arose between us. I thought for a second about waiting and matching pace with her, but it was far more fun to just watch her antics, so I let her be. Aren't you supposed to be a guide? You'd think that you would, actually just let her take a look at stuff. Black Iris, where are we going? She asked as she caught up to me, her feet thudding on the icy sidewalk and her breath painting short-lived clouds on the air about us. Let's see. How about some nice, delicious coffee? There's this place I know of on 6th Street, so let's take the trolley from there. Or from here. What? You heard me, right? You heard me right. Don't tell me you've never ridden one before. I haven't. That struck me as more than a little odd. Other than on foot, there was no other real method of transportation around here, and our trolley system was so good anyway that no one really minded. The other cities of our country had public transit systems that were at least as well developed as ours. That's how normal people got around. But La here had been chauffeured around for all her life, apparently. Her family must have been very rich, or very important, or both. As I stopped to think about this, La took the opportunity to sprint past me towards the station. So, she could be lively at times, huh? Fascinating. However, since her small figure was already receding into the horizon, I was going to have to cut my reverie short. A smile came to my lips unbidden, and I began to walk again. We got off the trolley at the 6th Street station and headed toward our destination. La, of course, continued to make her frequent investigatory stops, but in this case it was entirely understandable. Our house was on 8th Street. That end of town was mainly private residences, but 6th, well, it was the closest thing we had to a shopping mall around these parts. And La seemed intent on examining every single piece of merchandise and every single display window we encountered. Our destination, by the way, was not on 6th proper, but on a back street a block or so away. Its door was unadorned, but for a nameplate that simply read, Aroma. As we opened the door and walked in, a chime rang out and soon thereafter so did a casual voice. Welcome. Hey, wait a second. Why, if it isn't Black Iris. Long time no see, man. Okay, so this is a character important enough to have graphics, which means that he's somebody we know. I raised a hand in casual response. This proprietor here was one of the few acquaintances I had, you see. Been out of town or something. Hadn't seen you around in these parts forever, you know. No, I've been here the whole time. What did you do? Barricade yourself in your apartment? That's not good, yo. Oh, I got it. Don't tell me. My acquaintance's flood of sarcasm suddenly went dry when he spotted the girl who was standing behind me. Actually, it was more like La was hiding behind the folds of my greatcoat and scoping out the cafe's interior. Got a girlfriend? He at least had the good grace to manage a strained smile. La, on the other hand, reacted with no grace at all. She startled, flushed red as a beet, and began to shake her head violently. Fascinating. I let her go for a bit longer until I became distinctly afraid that she might very well shake her head clear off her shoulders. Yeah, I mean, in this world, you really can't put it past that. This is my guest. I see. Right. No way a cute little thing like this would shack up with an oddball like you. Right. What was I thinking, man? This was insulting, but it also happened to be true, so I couldn't really say anything. I had La sit at the counter, and then took a seat next to her. Welcome. The name's Rook, and the honor's all mine. Don't you be forgetting me now, okay, little lady? He even managed a sly wink at La with that last sentence. Smooth, man. Real smooth. Too smooth for me to want to imitate, as a matter of fact, if you know what I mean. La must have been as dumbstruck as I was, as she took a very long time to answer. La. Charmed, I think. She then bowed politely. Too politely, almost. A look of surprise flashed across Rook's face, and then he burst out laughing. Oh man, have we got a bona fide cutie here. Hey, Lil La, how old are you? Rook asked as he leaned over the counter and grinned. I sighed inwardly. See, this was just like him. He was like a dog with a bone whenever something interested him. My polar opposite, in other words. La, of course, was squirming uncomfortably in her seat by now. Obviously, this attention was unwanted. I sighed outwardly this time around, and turned to face Rook. If you know what's good for you, you will stop harassing my guest, please. So they're not actually going to tell us how old she is. I'm not harassing her at all, man. I'm just really interested in her, that's all. What's wrong with getting to know her a bit? Nice and personal, huh? Fine, have it your way. Just stop glaring at me like that, man. Rook shrugged vaguely as if to say, you're damn scary when you glare. La, meanwhile, was sighing with relief now that her interrogation was over. Did you come for lunch? It's a bit early for that, but hey, whatever. So, what'll it be? Up to you. Hey, La, anything in particular you want to eat? No idea. That came as no surprise. There were no menus here at Cafe Aroba. Rook always just made whatever he felt like anyway, whether it was what the customer had ordered or not. So I guess it was my mistake to even ask that question in the first place. Sorry about that, just drinking some water. Dude, just what kind of a guide are you, anyway? Rook asked in surprise. Well, yeah, someone like him who smothered his guests with all manner of unwanted attention would find me odd. Hey, Lil La, wanna be my guest from now on? I swear you'll have lots of fun. Sorry, no. Rook smiled wryly as if to say, oh, that's too bad, and got busy behind the counter. Much to my surprise, La smiled back, so obviously she was starting to warm up to him. A female guest, though, just what was Dexter thinking anyway? Rook wondered aloud as he began washing some vegetables. This Dexter, by the way, was the supervisor to whom several mnemonicides, including Rook and me, reported. Every single one of my assignments came from Dexter himself. La, for instance. But isn't it official policy not to allow male-female pairings? Man, if that's changed, when am I gonna be up for one? Most likely never. You, with a girl, we'd fear for her life. Heh, you're probably right. That's really not something that you should acknowledge. After all, if I got to live with a cutie like Lil La here, there's no telling what might happen. Again, not something you should acknowledge. That reminds me. Hey, little lady. If Black Iris here does something he shouldn't, you come running to me, you hear? Out of the frying pan and into the fire indeed. By this time, Rook was slicing up some fillets of fish without having to even look down at what he was doing. Now, I wasn't so bad at cooking myself, but this guy really was a pro. And, like most other top-flight chefs, he was a real eccentric. Case in point, he would rather give up his mnemonicide status than his cafe here. Although he didn't have enough customers for this place to be viable. He'd probably be wildly successful if he ever opened a restaurant somewhere other than this godforsaken town. But he couldn't do that, and he had no inclination to either. Here you go. He put gargantuan fish and vegetable burgers, grilled to perfection before each of us. La's looked almost as big as her head, but she bravely grabbed it with 2 hands and started digging in nonetheless. And she dug in with total gusto. The look of delight on her face was just fascinating. But she'd get mad if I stared at her for any longer, so I turned my attention to my own food. Rook watched us eating for a bit, and once he was satisfied that we were satisfied, began grinding some coffee beans. By hand. I'd never seen him do it any other way. Soon, the aroma of fresh ground coffee filled the air. It was so wonderful, in fact, that it made La look up from her burger. Coffee? Wait a second. The way she said that, it was as if this was the first time she'd ever even encountered the stuff. Okay, the trolley thing I could explain away, but this? Curiouser and curiouser. Starting to make me think that my whole, cat theory that I just threw out there on a whim might actually be a real thing, because she seems to have, 0 life experience as well. Nah, not coffee at all. This little lady is what we call espresso. Although Black Iris, well, he can't get that through his skull. I tried, I tell ya. Is that different from coffee? Totally. The way the beans are roasted, how they're pressed, how much caffeine there is, how it tastes, all different. I don't know anything about coffee, but isn't espresso just a type of coffee? It's not wrong to say that it's coffee. But a barbarian like Black Iris here would never understand that. Rook pulled the lever on his espresso machine as he grumbled. Then, after a calculated pause, he pulled the lever again. No grumbles this time around. 2 demi-tasses, each filled with this wonderful-smelling dark liquid, materialized before us soon thereafter. Here you go. Sweets for the sweet, La. The cafe's mocha's got your name on it. Or the cafe mocha's got your name on it. The usual cafe corretto for you, Black Iris. Impeccable timing as usual, since we'd both just finished our burgers. La picked up her demi-tasse gingerly, as if it were the most delicate thing in the world, and breathed in the rising vapors. Smells good. Of course. This is my specialty, you see. Now, Rook was always this way with the ladies, but today he seemed to be even more effervescent than usual. Then again, La wasn't brushing him off the way most women did, so maybe that was it. I think she's just, filled with new experiences, for some reason. I don't know why she has so little experience, but she's just taking it all in and happy to be experiencing some new stuff. Alright, Black Iris. Got an assignment, not from Dexter. Consultation request for a high-level mnemonicide. Lucky you, you've been tapped. Tapped. Wait, I'm currently with guest. It's not safe or legal to double up like that. Come to think of it, yeah. I wonder, how come Dexter didn't tell me you were with guest anyway? He's usually real good about that. Probably just a communications breakdown. Anyway, relay my regrets for me, will you? Rook froze, then shot me this half sheepish, half-evil look. He and I had been colleagues for long enough that I knew what this meant. He'd screwed me over. No choice, man. I had to agree. Let's just say this new client is well connected. While Rook himself was a competent enough mnemonicide, his true talent in that arena was as a fence. He ran a black market brokerage that matched mnemonicides with prospective guests outside of official channels. It was all strictly hush-hush. None of us had said a thing about it to Dexter, and he hadn't asked. Our clients were diverse, but they all had one thing in common. They were rich and powerful. I had no idea where Rook found the time to own and operate this fine and unprofitable restaurant, given everything else he did. I suppose that made him something of a workaholic. This case will be a cinch, I tell ya. He'll be done in 24 hours, I guarantee it. No idea why they insisted on a Class Alpha mnemonicide, really. Haha. It was a rare pleasure to see him groveling and begging like this. Except it wasn't that rare. It was no pleasure at all this time around. I didn't care about this being a technical violation of the law so long as the pay was good. And it was. But right now, La was my guest. She had priority. That was something I couldn't violate. So I was gonna have to say no. But then, as if she could read my mind, La casually said, "Don't mind. Your call. But no worries. As you were." Her speech was as curt and to the point as usual, but there was something awfully ill at ease about the way she said it. Just based on her, her dialogue, I'm picturing La having, like, a British accent. That sounds like that would be appropriate for her. What, did she dislike being pampered the way the rules dictated guests must be? If that was so, she really was an odd one. Most guests who came here were so starved for attention at first that they grew addicted to our care. Wait, if La really did dislike being waited on hand and foot, was that why she was assigned to a mnemonicide who wasn't particularly good to his guests? That brought up all sorts of possibilities that I didn't want to think about. Alright, fine, but you owe me one. Well, don't bother calling me at my apartment. I'm not there. I'm currently at the house on top of the hill on at 8th Street, so send your client there. I'll make it up to you somehow. 8th, huh? Isn't that kinda out in the boonies? Nice and peaceful, actually. So much so that I've half a mind to move there permanently. Oh, get off it, man. You're not old enough to retire yet. You know, based on just all of the dialogue in this game, actually, I can picture everybody in this game having British accents. I feel like this is probably meant to be like a town in like probably England. Anyway, thanks a bunch for this. I'll have the client at your location by the day after tomorrow. Roger that. The three of us killed some time together after that. La and I would have stayed longer, but it became obvious that the clouds were preparing to burst with snow, so we left in a hurry. Luckily, we found our way back to our place on 8th Street before the first flakes began pouring from the sky. Another day passed. One thing had become painfully apparent by now. La was oblivious to the ways of the world. It was tempting to chalk it up to her being a stuck-up, spoiled little princess, but, she wasn't stuck up, she wasn't spoiled, and she didn't put on airs like a princess. Generally, the guide is supposed to take care of all the housework. La, however, was actively helping out in any way she could. She couldn't keep her hands to herself if she tried. And she wasn't trying anyhow. The weird thing was, it wasn't because she felt sorry about making me do all the work. That was why her eyes glistened. Or the way her eyes glistened. The way she skipped and hopped about. It was obvious that she was having the time of her life. There were some ways in which this came as a relief. I had not, for instance, been looking forward to the prospect of doing a girl's laundry. So obviously I was more than happy to let La take care of it. Well, that is, other than the fact that she had no idea how to operate a washing machine. I can remember clearly how she stared at it the first time around, tried to figure it out for herself. After a long time indeed, she came running to me, defeated. When I told her which buttons to press, her eyes lit up and off she went. Trial, error, trial again, success. Such were the patterns of that day. Now it was around time for the other guests to arrive. I hadn't been able to take La out anywhere yesterday, just in case Rook might need to get a hold of me. I'd probably be stuck here today too. I wonder if maybe we ought not to let La and the guest interact, or La and his client here interact, because I feel like he might be like the shady sort, so it would probably be best to not have them see each other, but I don't know. You never know. Might not be a big deal. After all, if I really had only one day with this guest, finding and obliterating his psychic corrosion was going to be priority number one. Now, I'd expected that La would be bored out of her mind, but she never had a word of displeasure for me. In fact, she seemed to be enjoying herself, judging from the spring in her step and the twinkle in her eye. Every so often, though, she would come to me with loneliness and loss written all over her face, and she would stay by my side in silence for hours. If it were not for these times, it would have been almost impossible to believe that she was afflicted with the dolor at all. I heard someone knocking on our door as I was cleaning up after breakfast. I immediately abandoned my dishwashing and rushed to answer. By the time I rounded the corner to the foyer, he'd already started knocking again. Never mind. He's not a shady sort at all. Although maybe, I mean, it makes sense. The rich people, like, he kind of looks like he's dressed like he's from a rich family or something. So, maybe his parents were just really well connected. When I opened the door, I was surprised to be greeted by a face that was much lower to the ground than I had expected. I was referred. I have an appointment with Dr. Black Iris, the mnemonicide. Is he here? He happens to be me. What? Oh, I'm sorry, sir. It's just that you're a lot younger than I thought you'd be. A lot younger, eh? That was my line. Rook, man, you're killing me here. You didn't tell me you were starting a babysitting service. I mean, he was younger than La, even. A lot younger. When Rook had told me that this client was well connected, I'd assumed that he was talking about a governmental official or a captain of industry, not this. My name is Marcello. Nice to meet you, sir. The pleasure is mine. Please, come on in then, Marcello. You may call me Mar, if you please. If you please, huh? Well dressed and with a haughty manner of speech, to boot. So, I was definitely dealing with a rich kid then. Great. When Mar stepped into the living room, La almost dropped the plate she'd been watching and stared. Not surprising. She'd probably been expecting someone a lot older and taller. I mean, it might just be the graphics, but he actually seems taller than La, which is not super unsurprising, like, for a guy to be taller than a girl, even if he's younger, but I don't know. Supposedly he's saying that he's significantly younger, so... After an uncomfortable moment, she whipped back to her dishes, squeezing her sponge so hard that suds frothed out onto the sink. Her surprise, however, was dwarfed by that of our new arrival. Sorry. He suddenly and inexplicably bowed his head in apology. Now I had no clue what was going on anymore, and seeing that he was flushing beet red, I didn't want to know what was going on inside of his head right now either. So I sighed and hastened to explain the situation, but... Mar, this is La. I'm so sorry. I had no idea your, lady friend was here. Give me a moment, I'll leave right away. Mar didn't even let me finish my sentence. At the very moment that he finished his sentence, though, Allah's fingers chose to go completely nerveless. The unfortunate thing was that she kind of had a plate in them at the time. There was a crash and much tinkling. White porcelain shards spread all over the kitchen floor, and now we had not just one, but two young people blushing so furiously that they might as well have been on the surface of the sun. I just wanted to bury my head in my hands and be done with the day. La happens to be my guest. Just like you. Huh? Oh, I see. Right. I had no idea. Well, hopefully you have one now. Mar sank down onto a chair, as if his last words had drained all the strength out of him. Oh, La, be careful not to get cut there. Want some help? No, thanks. I'll be fine. Well, that didn't make me worry any less about her. But now that she'd said she'd be fine, there wasn't much I could do. So instead, I turned to Mar and began anew. As you already know, I am Black Iris, a mnemonicide. I'll be your guest for a short time. Should you wish to call me by any other name, go ahead and do so. I won't mind. Thank you, sir. Glad to be in capable hands. We'll see about that. Now, won't you tell me a little about your psychic corrosion? How did it start? Do you remember? Up until this point in their treatment, what I'd said to La and Mar had not differed substantially. But La was a severe case, necessitating a long internment here. In her case, my only course of action was to chip away at her psychic corrosion slowly over weeks and months. I had no choice. How could I, when my guest was clearly numb to the depths of her own sorrow? In comparison, Mar's dolor was only mild. Guests in his situation usually knew exactly where their psychic corrosion was coming from, and could point me toward the source with relative ease. Then I could move in with surgical precision and cut the memories out cleanly, quick and simple. Yep, so it seems like that's exactly what they do. A mnemonicide is somebody who cuts out memories from somebody, which I'm not so sure that's... I don't know, I'm not so sure that's the best way of doing things, but I guess it makes sense in a world like this where, like, people are suffering from, like, an epidemic of like, traumatic memories. Which begs the question, like, where are all these traumatic memories coming from? Like, what state is this world in that so many people are getting, like, traumatized to the point of suicide? Mar shot me a confused look and then spoke hesitantly. Psychic corrosion? No, actually, I just want you to erase every last memory I have. What? He was joking, right? If he was, that was pretty funny. But the way he was looking at me, it was quite obvious that this was no joke at all. I wonder if he's doing this out of free will, or... like, the fact that this is like a black market channel makes me think that maybe his parents want to erase his memories and then, like, sell them off to someone or something. It's kind of messed up, but I don't know. I felt, rather than saw, La poking her head out of the kitchen. Obviously, she'd overheard everything. Obviously, she was quite intrigued by this turn of events. It wasn't entirely obvious whether or not she'd finished cleaning up the broken porcelain. So, you want me to erase what? 10 or 11 years of memory all at once, is that it? 15, if you please. Oh, so he's significantly younger than La, and he's 15. So she's like, probably like 17 or 18. My apologies then. I'm afraid that's impossible. Even for you, Dr. Black Iris, the Class Alpha mnemonicide? I'd heard that alphas were incredibly powerful. Are you trying to tell me that even you have your limits? Pardon my asking, but are you even an alpha at all? Wow, this kid's got some sass. He was really fixated on this alpha thing, wasn't he? Was he just trying to provoke me, into action by slandering my abilities as a mnemonicide? If he was making a big mistake. I had no such pride in my profession. But then again, I do not recall ever having used the word impossible, I answered honestly. But this did not seem to make Mar particularly happy. I could hear him muttering, "So you can do it," with an almost dispirited air. I searched his face for a long time, indeed, before I said anything more. Yes, I can. But some preparations are necessary. I think I'll be ready by nightfall. Can you wait that long? Oh, of course. I will wait. Alright. Then feel free to do whatever you like until then. If there's anything you need, just holler. I'll be around. Yes, sir. I left Mar where he was and headed into the kitchen. La looked a little concerned. Total erasure. Impossible, right? Who knows? I've never tried it before, but I think it can be done. Probably. Probably. Nice of you. Yeah, we mnemonicides do have some interesting capabilities, you know. What? Are you afraid? La looked down at the floor for a moment when she snapped her head up again. There was something akin to anger in her eyes. No way. She turned heel and stormed out of the kitchen. My, so I'd made her mad, huh? For a long time after that, the three of us quietly waited for the passage of time. I sat on a stool in the kitchen and watched La and Mar. La was reading a book, Mar was sitting a little apart from La, and patiently waiting for nightfall. But this odd arrangement didn't go on for long. Soon enough, Mar turned to La and hesitantly broke the silence. If I may inquire, what book are you reading there? Psyche's Gatekeeper by Annalee. Pardon me? I couldn't help but suppress a smile at this, for such a haughty individual, Mar certainly had no idea what he was, or wasn't, talking about. Then again, it wasn't surprising the law would even know of, let alone read, this particular book. Or it was surprising, sorry. Psyche's Gatekeeper, a book written by Annalee. Oh, right. Of course. Pray tell, what kind of book is... Oh, dear me. 1,000 apologies. I had no intention of being a bother to you. La just smiled at this. No problem. Happy you asked. Shall I go on? And Mar blushed furiously in response, not that I could really blame him. La was really cute when she smiled. Of course. Please, by all means. What an irony, I thought. A markedly blunted effect is reported in virtually every case of the dolor. And yet my two guests here don't seem to have that problem at all. A treatise on mnemonicide, the protocol for the systematic erasure of memories. The writer is a mnemonicide himself. This Annalee person, really. I wonder if she's actually a mnemonicide herself, and maybe she was sent here to deal with us for something like that. Really. Dr. Annalee, Class Omega, mnemonicide, or so it seems. Class Omega? What? Wait, I thought they were an urban legend, a fairy tale, you know. Well, they are quite real. Real and incredibly rare. 1 in 1,000, or less. Actually, the proportion was even lower than that. There were perhaps 10 known Class Omegas in the entire world at present. From Class Epsilon up to Class Alpha. It was a smooth, linear progression of ability, but Class Omegas, they were a different kind of beast altogether. To put it another way, without them, a true cure for the Dolor would be impossible. Even an alpha like me could not permanently erase the memories of my guests. I could only make them go away for a time. Sometimes that was a long time, but never forever. I just held those memories at gunpoint for as long as I was able, but a Class Omega could and would pull the trigger. All guests left this town with holes in their heads, whether this was accomplished through the tender mercy of self-slaughter, or the cruel anointing of a Class Omega's touch. Was it not all the same? Happy memories, sad memories, all guarded by Psyche's gatekeeper. A steadfast warden won't let you in, even if you want to forget, especially if you want to forget. Mnemonicides are thieves. They trick Psyche's gatekeeper. Emulation, that's what they call it. And once the gate is open, a mnemonicide could walk right in and take whatever he wanted. Come to think of it, that did sound an awful lot like a thief, didn't it? Fortunately, I didn't really have to think much about such philosophical implications. I was just here to do my job. Child mnemonicides have no power, and they grow stronger with age, more complex. Stronger gates demand greater power. Why? Simple. Takes a crazy son of a gun to emulate the complexities of a well-fortified gate. And in English, that means the more powerful the mnemonicide, the more bizarre he tends to be. An alpha like Black Iris here will almost always be a royal pain in the neck. Or so it is written. As annoying as it was all true. Even I knew what a hopeless eccentric I was. Oh, I think I understand now. Thank you for enlightening me. I salute your intelligence, Miss Law. Flattering, but no. Had to reread it a lot. Still don't get most of it. Actually, her summary was more or less correct, and in fact, she'd been able to explain it all in her own words. She knew what she was talking about, obviously, and she'd read into it quite deeply. Mar was more correct than he knew. La was damn intelligent, all right. Truly, Miss La, I am envious. You see, Just curious, you don't have to answer this. What do you plan on doing after your memories are erased? Well, want to wipe yourself away. Start clean. Is that it? Well, that may well be. Mar muttered as he nodded, weakly. But instead of pressing him, La simply waited quietly for his next words. She didn't have to wait for long. I am not strong, nor am I intelligent. I cannot even converse smoothly with other people. I am a failure, without any recourse. Even were my mother and father to have any expectations of me, I would never in a million years be able to meet them. It would be better if I were dead. It would be better if I had never been born. Your parents say that? No, not at all. They would never say anything like that. They have always said that they love me just the way I am. And that makes me very happy, but still, it pains me that they are forced to nurture me in that manner. I cannot forgive myself for my own lack of ability. Enviable. Huh? That you have such loving parents. No, they truly are, and I truly appreciate all they have done for me. You want to throw that away? Are you really so sure? La met Mar's bewilderment head-on with a vague, clouded smile, and then she said no more. I got off my chair and walked into the living room. It's time, Mar. My preparations are complete. We can begin at your convenience. Huh? Oh, of course. Very well. Final confirmation. You want me to erase all 15 years of your past experience, or past existence? Yes, sir. I will not, however, tamper with any memories that are necessary for your basic function, like going to the bathroom, eating, things like that. I trust you understand why that is. But as for the rest, all your happiness, all your sorrow, all your love, all your hate, all your suffering, all your pain, all that is within you. Will die. Die. Correct. He gulped loudly. His eyes were wide as saucers. I gazed back at him coldly. The loving kindness of your parents, too, will die, along with you. Now Mar grew very pale and started shivering. He struggled to gain control of himself for a while, and eventually managed to issue some noises that sounded vaguely like words from his quavering lips. I think... Changed your mind, have you? Yes, sir. He nodded slightly. Obviously, he was close to tears. I let out a sigh. I'm afraid it's a bit too late for that now. What? Mar, to be honest, I initiated the treatment phase of the pneumonicide protocol a long while ago, when we first met. What? But how in the world? Did I not tell you from the very beginning? My name is Black Iris. I'm called that for a reason. All I had to do was look you straight in the eye to begin the process. No way. That means... Yes, that you are slowly losing yourself as we speak. Impossible to say exactly how long it will take, but rest assured that your memories are withering away and dying one by one. So gently, in fact, that you yourself will never notice. It can't be. Tears began to flow from his eyes as if some dam inside of him had burst at last. I stood there silently, waiting for his next move. No. No, 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 no. I beg of you, give me my memories back. Please, I'll do anything, just give them back. Give myself back. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't care anymore about the stuff I said before. I have to be myself, or else I really would be better off dead. Words failed him after that. He just wept and wept and wept. Law and I had nothing to say either. We just stood there, waiting for the flood of tears to end. We waited forever. Silence draped the room like virgin snow. Mar looked exhausted. He stared up at me with eyes nearly as empty as my own. Dr. Black Iris, thank you for everything. Now that I have had a chance to reflect upon it, I think I could have grown to like myself. But I was too stupid to see what was right before my eyes, and now it's all gone. I hate having to say this to you. It feels too much like a sermon to me. But it occurs to me that it's a miracle in and of itself to be loved the way you were. Mar nodded smoothly. Absolutely. Therefore, until all my memories are gone, I shall strive to get to know myself as well as I can. If it's the most fitting kind of funeral I can think of. Certainly. You know, though, your new self will probably be much the same. He'll probably worry about the same things, and he'll probably be loved the same way by your parents as you were. Or at least, so I hope. That's so very kind of you, Doctor. No, not at all. Just doing my job. Besides, you are about to become very mad at me. I assure you that I am not angry with you at all, sir. No, but you will be. Suddenly it was I who could not bear to look Mar in the eye, not the other way around. Great, now what? Why the hell did I do that? Mar? Yes, sir. Well, you see, sir? Sorry, I lied. Pardon me. The truth is, I haven't done a thing to you all day. What did you say? I have not initiated treatment at all. Your memories have nothing to fear. They won't disappear from you. What the? Oh my god. You tricked me. That's right. I'm sorry. Sorry? Sorry? Wait, that means... Mar yelped in utter consternation. He looked so wretched now that I quite regretted what I had done. But it was too late for apologies. Or so I thought. But the reflective mood left as quickly as it had come. For Mar burst into peals of unstoppable laughter. Ha! Ha! He was laughing so hard that at first I thought he'd gone off the deep end for good. But there was something about his smile, the first real smile I'd ever seen from him, that told me otherwise. Behind me I heard a high, warm voice raised in merriment that was La, and she was giggling. Oh well, whatever. I could live with this every once in a while. As long as it was a long while. Well, that was interesting. I think we'll end it there. So, until next time, take care, and I will see you then.